All right, welcome to the live stream. And in this live stream, we're going to be talking about how to improve church audio for your live stream. And then we're going to do a Q&A, a question and answer time. So as you are logging in now and waiting for the notifications to go out and for people to log in, if you would, those of you that have joined me already, let me know how the audio is. Before we get started, we want to make sure our audio is good on the live stream. And so if you would let me know in the comments to ensure that the audio is good on the live stream that is called Improve Church Live Stream Audio. Let me know how it sounds, because here in just a minute, the only thing I'm really concerned about is it being too loud. Okay. So if we got that squared away, then I can show you a few things. I appreciate you helping me out. Let me know the sound is good. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. And since audio is great, let me show you something real quickly that a lot of us don't realize when it comes to audio. And that is, it takes a lot to have good audio. Now, I'm not saying you need all these fancy gadgets and so forth, but just realize that it takes a whole lot to make good audio. But I'm going to make it simple for you. I'm going to show you one of the ways I create audio and am creating audio at this time through the live stream. Well, first of all, I've got the microphone. And this is the Lewitt 440 Pure. It's the newest one to my collection, and I really like the aesthetics of it. Although I have another boom arm I'm going to replace this one with one that's a lower profile, so this is not in the way. And plus two, what else are you going to spend your money on, right? So we're going into the Lewitt 440 Pure, I believe it is, XLR to the Apollo Twin. I know you can't see that. Audio interface. And let me show you on the screen right now, on the separate screen where we're using the different plugins. All right, and so this is, right now I'm processing my voice through the Apollo. And let me move myself out of the way here. All right, let's concentrate on one thing at a time. All right, so you can see right now the audio meters over here on my second screen is the Apollo, and this is a digital workstation. As far as, you know, you have analog equipment. There's nothing wrong with analog equipment. I can make great sound with audio with analog equipment. Excuse me. I have plenty of analog equipment in my studio down here in my basement of my house. But for right now, I'm using digital audio. So I'm coming through the microphone and I'm coming through the console, which is the Apollo Twin X. But not only that, I'm adding processing on my voice. I'm using a preamp, and I'm not saying you have to, we're just talking about a little audio now and what you're hearing and what it takes to create this. So the next thing, I'm running through this solid state logic, and this is a channel strip, a digital channel strip, where I'm using the preamp off of this piece of digital equipment. Of course, you know, it simulates the analog because it looks like analog. Analog is basically you have the physical knobs and buttons. Digital, it's on the computer. That's the best way to kind of explain that. So I have my preamp, and I'm not using anything on this section. I do have not a gate, but an expander that cuts out certain frequencies that I don't want anybody to hear, which would be air handler noise and things like that. And then I'm not adding any EQ right here. Okay. And then I'm passing through it, and let's see. No, I better not do that. But let me go on to the next one. That's the next one is a compressor. Now this one, a compressor is that radio voice that you're hearing right now, and that is through this, excuse me, this Avalon vacuum tube compressor, and it is really giving me that boomy voice. And because if I turn it off, okay, this is my voice now without the Avalon, and this is with it on. See the difference? And so compression can really be helpful, and that helps me if I get real loud. It's attenuating or knocking down those transients, 1 to 2 dB on my voice, and compressing it. Okay, so compressor would be your best friend for a pastor who has voice inflections where he gets real loud and then he talks real quiet. All right. Next one is the de-esser. So anytime I say the letter S, you see it, the blue lines, S, that semblance when we say the letter S, real sharp consonants. You see they're being knocked down right here. Again, the letter S. See, it's cutting that down. All right. So let's move back over here, and then we'll talk about what it takes to make great audio. So what you're hearing right now is not just I plugged a microphone in and it's just, and that's all it is to it. No, there's some things that you need to know about. 5 things very quickly for this live stream. Number 1, to make good and improve your live stream audio, and I'm looking at my notes right here, you have to think differently. You have to think differently. And what I mean by that is the days when we went into the sound room or booth or whatever, or the balcony, and we just turned the sound system on, and then we unmuted things or either turned channels on based upon what kind of mixer we have, and then we just run up the fader. And by fader I mean, as we see on the screen, let me bring that back up so you know what I mean. When I'm talking about the fader, I'm talking about this right here. Okay, this is a fader. Just bringing it up, maybe the Unity, the days of just bringing it up, all right, the pastor, I got a mute button and all I got to do is unmute it and it's set. Forget it. We'll never touch it again. We hadn't touched it since the guy adjusted it back in 1994. Don't touch it. Them days are over, okay? When you're doing, live stream audio, you got to think differently. So the days of just setting fader for what we call front of house, which would be what you hear through your PA speakers at the church, through the sound system, and then you're hearing it in the room. All right, that is still important and is easier to create, in my opinion, sound through front of house, because people are in the room and they can hear the person, even if the the PA speaker wasn't even on, they would be able to hear something, but not with a live stream. Okay, so they're up there and you flip it on, you get a little bit through there, whatever, you're going to be all right for front of house. So this is the real, this is the real challenge I see within churches when I go in and look at their setups and they're having problems with live stream audio. And it is, for me, kind of confusing to explain. But what happens is the reason we're struggling so much with it is because we have to create a separate mix. And by a separate mix, I'm talking about, just think about a mixer. What do you put in there? Say we're going to add a little piano in the mix. We're going to add a wireless microphone or a singer or a bassist or a guitarist or, whatever instrument. And we're going to put them all together in the mix. We're going to fix them all individually. Like, for example, right now, I can show you the mix that I'm using. Excuse me, I don't mean to be all stopped up here, but I am. Let's go back to the screen. All right. So what I mean by a mix, actually, I have a mix right now. There's just nothing besides my voice coming through here. So you can see on channel 1, so to speak, I've got a microphone input, which is what you're hearing right now. So these are inputs, and I'm only using one input. However, on this section, this is my output. This is my main mix. Okay, so if we were to have one microphone here, another one, another one, another one, and each one of those would be set individually, and then we set them all together. Okay, this would be the output. So that's what I mean by when I talk about a mix, and that's what makes it so difficult for folks is when it comes to thinking differently. So big difference from creating sound and sculpting sound in a room, in a sanctuary, in a venue is much different than a live stream. Okay, so you got to think differently, and we'll talk through this. One of the main reasons is because it's a different mix. All right, secondly, as we talked about the difference between a room front of house mix and a live stream mix. So let me give you an example. We've actually in our small churches been creating mixes for years. We just didn't know it. So one of them we're pretty familiar with is the front of house mix, which comes through the PA speakers. Okay, that's going to be front of house mix, whatever is coming through those main PA speakers. That's going to be your main mix. All right, so we're familiar with that one because that's the one we've had to be able to turn on in order to have sound in the sanctuary. And then we didn't realize it, but we had our monitors, and our monitors, let's mostly, in my experience, I deal with smaller churches, and so they don't have the in-ear monitors and don't really need them, honestly. We got the stage wedge monitors, the speakers on the platform or stage or up near the pulpit area that allow the person who's singing or speaking or singing by a soundtrack or leading singing, whatever, so that they can hear themselves. All right, so that they are able to hear themselves. That's so important. A lot of people don't understand that. For example, right now I'm wearing headphones, and that is so that I can hear what is coming through the system. Now, I can hear myself speaking in the room, but that doesn't tell me what it sounds like as I'm applying processing in real time, okay? So I'm monitoring my live stream. We'll get to that here in a little bit too. That's important. So think different. It is, in my opinion, easier to create sound in a room, in a sanctuary, than it is for a live stream. All right, so we got to think the difference between them. So he's talking about front of house. We're familiar with that. Monitors, stage wedge monitors require a different mix, okay? Require a different mix. We may not always understood that, but what we hear on stage is not necessarily what everybody else needs to hear out in the sanctuary. For example, certain things, trying to think. With my piano monitor that I set up at church, I'm feeding like the sanctuary mics, the mics that pick up the congregation singing through my monitor so that I can hear them singing to help me to stay, so we can stay together, if that makes sense. All right, so some people say, why do you put microphones out there for the audience, for the congregation? Well, a lot of reasons that we'll talk about here in a minute. For example, real quickly is, and I think Raymond's watching, my song leader, if you don't think different about the live stream, when you lead singing or congregationals and you don't have any crowd mics or ambient mics, as they call them, whatever, then you're on the live stream doing a solo. You're the only one they can hear. So see, that's where we got to think different. When we're in the room, we can hear the room and we can hear the people singing, and we don't think about it. But we're going to talk about what a solution is to that. And that goes to my next, the third thing is mic everything. Everything's got to have a microphone, or it's either got to be plugged into the mixer. And what I mean by that, choir, okay, special singing, any instruments that need to be plugged in. You may be able to hear them in the room, and you say, well, I've got my own monitor or amp I'm playing through. Well, that's good for the room, but they can't hear it on the live stream unless you were near a microphone and it was picking it up. So the example that I wrote down that I use to explain it is an acoustic piano. Okay, an acoustic piano. That is a great example. Now, if I play an acoustic, or if someone else plays an acoustic piano, a grand piano, a baby grand piano, whatever, in a room, you're going to say, well, I can hear it just fine. Well, I know you can, because it's playing in the room. So in the main mix for the front of house, I would only need a little bit of piano coming through my PAs, okay? Through my public address system. That's what PAs are. All right, through my sound system, so to speak. I only need a little bit because we can hear it in the room. However, the acoustic piano must be mic'd for the live stream because they're what? Not in the room. You've got to think about, you have to, as it goes back to my first point, you have to think differently. You have to think differently when it comes to the live stream. It may sound great in the sanctuary and sound terrible, or it's not loud enough, it's too loud, the piano's louder than the one leading the singing, it's just overpowering, it's distorted, because we say, well, I'm just sitting back here at the fader, and like I always have for 20, 30 years, and everything sounds fine here. Well, they're two different mixes, see? So we got to think differently. There is a difference between the room front of house live stream. The example we used was the acoustic piano. Now, it's a different, thirdly, it's a different mix. That is the reason so many churches are struggling with live stream audio. We don't understand what it means to create a mix to begin with, or even know what that means. Because in a sense, I mean, I came up in this too. I came up learning sound by just because one man he was in a accident at work and he was hurt, and then he discovered he had cancer. So the pastor, I had been sitting in there with him trying to learn something, and by the time I knew how to, play a CD back then over the sound system, I knew how to mute, unmute, I knew how to, move the fader, if it's too loud, bring it down, if it's not loud enough, bring it up. I knew that. Beyond that, I didn't know diddly squat, just to be honest with you. I mean, I can make sound, which is a great thing to do if you are doing the sound system. Your job is to get the sound on, get sound going through there, and maintain sound throughout the entire service. And there's nothing more that irks me is a person who sits at the mixer or sound board, we call it, and sits there, they get everything started, and then they're disconnected the rest of the service. They're not paying attention. You couldn't get their attention. They're not maintaining. They just said, well, it just sounded fine. We started out, but things can happen. So you got to constantly be paying attention. So it's a different mix when it comes to live stream audio. Now, what that means is, let's put it this way, when I go into a church, and I've been in several churches working on their sound equipment, which most of the time, honestly, there's nothing wrong with the equipment they already have. And I'm honest with them about that. There's nothing wrong with your equipment. And the truth is, honestly, to save yourself a lot of money and heartache and heartbreak, yes, it's nice to have all the newfangled technology. I'm all for it. Sometimes you need to upgrade. Let's say you're going from analog to digital. Well, the only way to do that is to take the leap and, switch it over. I mean, I'm not against analog. I don't think, in my opinion, everybody needs digital. if you're wondering if you need digital or not, I'll help you out with it. If you don't know and people struggle with the analog system and they don't really understand it, you might want to get some training beforehand, because when you go digital, it's going to take that and amplify the confusion, because now we don't have physical buttons. Now it's all computerized, and I've got to look on a screen and set it. So it's just hard. I mean, sometimes I miss the old knobs and buttons, it's just something about that. So maybe that'll help you decide. But if you do decide, give me a call, okay? Either way. So it is a different mix. Most of the time what I do when I go into a church, but I do want them to graduate away from this, is one of the things you can do is tap off your main mix. Okay, you would go to the back, see if analog board has a separate output, like let's say it had a 1/4 inch, output for the main mix, and you can kind of mirror that. That's good, especially if you're just getting started out, because it's a lot to learn. It's a whole lot to learn, and you want to take it, get comfortable, take it for a test drive, start getting comfortable with that and what it takes. But eventually what I like to see on those who have an analog board is those to take and go to an aux mix. So back what we talked about before when it comes to making different mixes. Now, don't let me confuse you here, okay? Just remember the old days. That'll help you. The sound man or sound lady went in there, they turned the system on, and the system is everything that is put together. I like to call it the audio signal chain, which is everything connected together, okay? From microphone to cables to the snake that runs the cables back to the sound booth or room or balcony, whatever, to the mixer to, let's say you don't have unless it's a powered one, you're going to go from that to the mixer to an EQ, okay, maybe a 32 band EQ, and then you're going to go from that to the amps, and then from the amps to the speaker wire, and to the speaker wire to the speakers, and from the speakers to your listening ears. All right. So that's the entire system. And so they would turn it on. Now, most people can follow me with I'm going to use this for simplicity purposes, because this will help you to know what I'm talking about. Is what we hear, we sit in the pews. All right. That's a main mix, front of house. We all know that one. Most of the time, when, let's say back in the day which is not, and some people still do this, there's nothing wrong with it, where they have a speaker in the nursery. You remember that? That speaker that's in the nursery, and I'm all for having a speaker or a screen in the nursery. I'm all for that, because, they're part of the service too. So let's say they would be on auxiliary 2. That would be a separate mix that they would be receiving. Let's say the easiest one is the monitors on the stage up or near the pulpit. They are usually on aux 1. And what I mean by an aux is it refers to an auxiliary. So I wish I had an analog board to show you, but I will show you kind of an example on here. Right here, when you come to if you've seen a mixer, you come to the gain, and then there's knobs down through here. So what happens is it's traveling down, the sound is traveling down, and what happens is it reaches the preamp, and then you go through a couple buttons, and you'll see auxiliary 1, 2, 3, 4, and there'll be 4 knobs in a row. And what that's saying is when this comes down, auxiliary is going to send it over this way to its destination. And most time over here on the right, there'll be a button a knob that will be your main auxiliary mix. It sounds confusing. It's really not. You have to think in, horizontal, all right, which you're dealing with the aux mixes, and then, vertical coming down the channel strip. Okay. So if you have any questions about that, you can put them in the comments. I'd be glad to I can bring up a picture on the screen, and we will be doing a Q&A here in just a minute. But so a different mix. You cut off your main to start out with. Till you get comfortable, you need to get to an auxiliary mix. All right, eventually. Some people use a matrix. I hadn't got there yet. Matrices kind of confuse me right now, to be honest with you. I like to run a live stream off the aux. On the aux, the auxiliary mix. That's my personal preference. Okay. So we talked about, number one, think differently. The days of just turning everything on, walking away, everything's fine, clip your fingernails, your toenails, sit there and, play with a paper clip, whatever. You're not going to create good sound live stream doing that. Secondly, difference between front of house and live stream audio. We use the example of the acoustic piano. It is, thirdly, a different mix. You want to graduate to an auxiliary on a analog board. You say, well, I have a digital board. Well, I like to run those off the mix bus. That would be, you got mix bus 1, and then you create a separate mix. Okay. So that would be the way we could do that. All right. So, and we can show you more about that later if you're interested. Remember to mic everything. Speakers, singers, choirs, specials, instruments, offertory prayer, anything like that. Make sure somebody has a microphone or they come to the microphone. And then the last thing to improve your live stream audio is it's going to take someone, and this would be a good way to learn it, would be for someone honestly to really truly understand what they're dealing with, would be for someone to make a live stream mix that was not in the same room as the main mix. So in other words, let's say in your sanctuary, everybody hears the main mix, and the person that's doing the live stream has to go downstairs to a separate room or off to the side so they don't hear things coming through the PAs. And that would teach someone that, hey, I can't hear this. I can't hear the piano. And because you got to remember, everybody that is on the live stream is not, well, they could be, but in theory, they're not in the room. They're not there at the church. They may be over in another country, another county, across, the county. They may cross the state, the country, out of the country. They can't hear you. So the way to do that is get a good set of headphones to start out with. Get a good pair of headphones, not these little cheapo. I'm not saying go out and spend a whole lot, but don't go these old, $10 cheapo headphones. You need a good pair of headphones. I suggest these, not that they're the best, but I like them. These are the Sony, it might be a little dark right there. These are the Sony MDR-7506s. And they completely go over the ear. They cover the ear entirely, so I'm not hearing anything else out of that. And that's helping me do my mix right now and not to distract me. All right, so you can get a pair of headphones. That's going to be the easiest. I know probably you have some issues with you won't be able to go to a separate room, run a line, that type of thing. But it is something to think about. Really, if you want to improve your audio, you need someone designated for front of house mix in the room, and then have a separate person off with their headphones connected to the output device, whatever that may be. They're hearing, like right now I'm hearing the processed audio for me coming through my headphones. So I'm hearing what you're hearing, and that's what they need to be able to to do, and they can make adjustments for the live stream. So that's really the big one. Again, we're getting ready to take some questions, so be sure to put those in the comments. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. Again, in summary, think differently. You're going to have to think different. I know it's hard, but you're going to have to think different, okay? You're going to have to think about the other person. You're going to have to think about someone who's not in the room. The days, like I said, you're just sitting there and you flip it on, and I remember the days where you just flip it on and nobody even has to be back there because we didn't have to worry about or think about live streams. And then notice, know there's a difference between front of house mix, monitor mix, and live stream mix. It's different. In the room, we need a little less piano, but on the live stream, we need more piano because we don't have the benefit of the room. So it is a different mix. I like to see it on the auxiliary for analog, mix bus for digital is the way I do it. Not say that's, I know other people say, I do it, put it on the matrix, and that's fine too. Mic everything. Think about the folks at home. Without a microphone, they can't hear it unless they're picking up through another one, and that always is frustrating when you can't hear. And then lastly, headphone or studio monitors in a separate room, okay? All right, so let's take some questions. And I see one here from Facebook. Let's see if I can add it to the broadcast here. All right. And while you're still on here, let me offer you this. If you go to Towler Media, Towler, actually, let me show you. Go to my website, which is towlermedia.com. All right, let me get these all my channel strips off of here. They pop up every time. All right, and this one too. All right, there we go. All right, go to my website, towlermedia.com. Okay, and you will see on the screen there is a button that you can click on that says schedule a free discovery call or phone call or video call. So either one. So you click on that, and then that's going to take us to a time that you can have a free consultation, 30-minute consultation with me. Again, it's free. That's how much it costs you. Free. To go to my website, towlermedia.com/call, and you can schedule a free phone or video consultation with me. All right, it can be a phone call, be glad to talk to you, or a video call, which I do prefer, but either one's fine. You can see the times that I am available, and you just click through there, select the date, put your name in, your number, email, book the appointment, and right here it just says, is there anything else you would like us to know or like me to know before our appointment? Of course, the more you tell me, the more I can help you with, and then you submit it, and I will be getting with you about, let me just put yes or skip, whatever. Okay. So now you got it all set, and then I go in my system and I can see that you scheduled a free consultation call with me. All right. It's free. If I can help you, great. If I'm not able to help you, it didn't cost you anything. So, all right. So come to me with your questions. All right. Yeah, I believe this is Raymond. It says Facebook user. It says, hey, Doc, is the digital channel strip free to use? And the answer to that is no, it is not. It is not free. It is right costly, to be honest with you. So all these channel strips that I have added to my Apollo interface before me that is processing this in real time, no, it's not free. Now, there are some free, there's some free things out there, like for OBS, Open Broadcast software that's open source you can get for free. It does have some it has some, way you can put some compression on there, noise suppression, and you could add some Waves plugins to OBS, and you could do that. The Waves plugins are going to be cheaper than the Apollo ones I'm using right now, so I wouldn't suggest that. I mean, if you want to, get into it, great, but you see what I'm saying? I don't want you to get caught up in that. But no, they're not free. What I've done is just got the ones that I needed. Well, I don't really need any of this stuff, but you know what I mean. I got the ones that purchased them in time and so forth for the Apollo, because it, like I said, it takes the taxing off your computer and processes within that itself. Okay. So there's all kinds of ways you can do this. There's analogs, and sometimes I live stream with analog equipment, like the DBX286S. I can live stream with an analog mixer I have here, my Allen Heath Z436, which is like a 32 channel, humongous analog board that, I'd basically just be using one input for the microphone. I mean, it's about as, 5 foot long or something. I mean, I could do that. It's just, I got one input. So it really kind of I could use it, sure. But we're doing live streams, podcasting, you're adding a few more folks. I've got a field recorder, a Zoom H6 that could be used. Don't make this mistake. Don't watch YouTube. I mean, watch YouTube. It's some good stuff on there, but don't watch and look what everybody else is doing. Because what I've found, and I've tried out a lot of equipment, you just need to get what will work for you. Okay? So what I mean by that is, it depends on how much you care about each little thing. If you just want to get better sound on the simplest, lowest economical way. Like I had somebody contact me the other day. It says, hey, I want to create a YouTube channel where I want to, talk to people about plumbing. All right. So they asked me for a suggestion. I said, well, if I was doing that, I think you need good audio no matter what. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you need this, this big elaborate setup for doing that. You just need the first thing you need to do to have a great live stream is you got to have, you can't just use your phone audio because it stinks. All right. But you need you could get a $20 lavalier microphone to clip on your shirt, or, you could get one of the, wireless lavalier microphone. It really depends on what you're doing. Now, if you're going to talk about high quality audio, then okay, you're going to need a little better setup, because those folks are going to, be expecting a little more. But for certain things like that, I would just start on the lowest level, and you got to be careful how far you fall down the rabbit hole, I call it. I do this as a side hobby, and, with my business and going in and so forth and so on, I like to buy toys every once in a while. So that's kind of my thing, but it doesn't mean it has to be your thing. The same thing with churches. I see churches wanting to spend a lot of money and thinking they've got to spend a lot of money to have good sound, when really, and I tell them, there's a couple things that, people don't listen to me about. And that's fine, but I've done my part in telling them. More than likely, in all honesty, you don't need anything else probably at your church. If it's wore out, burnt out, outdated, okay. You need an update. You need a replacement. But most churches, if they had a correct installation to begin with, then they've got a good setup. And probably No, not probably. What's going on is folks don't really know how to use it. So more than likely, you're having all these problems with sound in church. I would do this first. Call a professional. Now, I don't consider myself a professional, but like I said, I work with smaller churches and I'm learning more every day, but I know enough to go in there and look over everything, and make an assessment and say, hey, you just need some training on what you already have. It's just you're not using it correctly. Let me give you just a wonderful example. I could correct a lot of problems right now with the advice I'm getting ready to give you. And it amazes me when I go in churches, what I'm doing right now, where I have this microphone probably about 3 inches from my mouth, and I'm getting a little closer now. If people would scoot up to the plate and get close to that microphone, it would correct a lot of problems. Because, and this sounds like a big word or a big phrase, but it's not, because I'm going to simplify it. It's called the sound to noise ratio. Sound to noise ratio. When I back away from the mic and I get it far away from me, it sounds terrible. Because what I've done is, first of all, you can't hear me. It got lower. And I've got it further away from the source, which is me. I've probably got it 10 inches away. And now what I've done, because I've taken it so far away from the source, that it's picking up all the other room noise and the reflections of the room and so forth. But if I simply bring the microphone up to my mouth, then it sounds 1,000 times better. I take any mic, make it sound better by simply putting it closer to your mouth. There's nothing anybody can do for you. There's no plug-in. There's no channel strip that's going to help anybody if people don't take the microphone and get it near the source. Scoot up to the plate. I can't believe how many pastors that are scared to death, I'm talking about terrified, of a microphone. And that is one of our greatest problems. Because before we go into the microphone, good sound starts at the source. Who's the source? The singer, the speaker, the instrument. And we have to get that microphone close in order to get good sound. I'm not having to yell right now. I'm not having to get loud right now. I'm not having to strain my voice right now, because I've always thought it's ridiculous that our churches have $20, $30, $40, $50,000 worth of sound equipment, and someone has to say, "Speak up, preacher, I can't hear you." Well, those are some other problems. That is the second thing people don't like to hear. If I come in and assess a church, which I'll use our church as an example right now, we're in the gym, and thank God for it. And it's plenty of room, but it's a lot of flat surfaces on the wall, or flat surface, which is wood, and there is carpet. If it wasn't for the carpet, we wouldn't be able to stand it in there as far as acoustically. And so when we speak, there's all these reflections, sort of like if you ever go to an open house and there's no furniture, there's no carpet. Well, let's say there is carpet. No furniture, nothing on the walls, and you go in there and talk. How does that sound? It's hard to hear. Or if you've ever been in a situation where you're somewhere, you got a lot of people in a room like a fellowship hall, and it has a low ceiling, and people are talking, and it's giving you a headache because you're hearing all the room reflections bouncing off the walls, and it is just unbearable. And someone could be sitting right in front of you, and you can't hardly hear what they're saying. So that brings me to the other thing people don't like to hear. If you were given $10,000, which is not a whole lot in today's economy. I mean, it is from us poor folk, but what I mean is, getting something with $10,000. More than likely, if you were given $10,000, you would want to buy a bunch of new equipment. Now, I understand that because it's more exciting. It really is. I mean, all these buttons and dials and colors, and the other church has it, and it works for them, which we shouldn't be looking other places because their room is different. It's a whole different concept, a whole different, assessment. So we go in there and we say, oh, we want the buttons and dials and colors and lights. And hey, I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. But I do know this. If you were given $10,000, it would be better to spend that $10,000 on acoustic treatment for the room that you are in. That is not popular. Nobody wants to hear that, but it's the truth. If you have that much money, $10,000, and you say, now if you came to me and said, should I get acoustic treatment for the room, for the sanctuary, fellowship hall, gym, my home studio, all right, $10,000 worth of equipment, $10,000 microphone, or $10,000 of acoustic treatment, I'm going to tell you, man, I'd like to have the microphone, but in all honesty, it's going to be the treatment of the room. You're listening to a microphone, a large diaphragm condenser microphone that is in a treated room down here in my basement. Not really a room. Let me show you, okay? And I wish my kids didn't have my phone watching videos so I could use it as a camera, but I think I can move my camera. I know I can move it. All right. And I know it's dark in here. All right, you see this black rectangle right here? This is an acoustic blanket that I've got hanging from floor joists, and I've designed it to where it will hang down round about where my voice is going to be standing or either sitting, because I got a sit-stand desk. Over here, I guess in the darkness as well, is an acoustic panel. Actually, let me get that. Hang on a minute. You'll want to see this. All right, hang on just a second. All right, I'm back. Okay, so this is an acoustic panel, and I know, like I said, I'm creating a cinematic look, so it's kind of dark in here, but you see this panel? You've seen them in stores, and once you see them, you'll see them everywhere. This is an acoustic panel I built. It's 3 inches deep, and it's filled with, which this can be controversial, Rockwell insulation in the back and a screen, and then I've got felt around it. And one of these days, you know how that goes, one of these old days, I've made it this far building them. I got about 10 of them. I'm going to put them back here on the back wall. Now, they're not for looks. They're to absorb sound, okay? To absorb sound reflections. All right, so I have those. All right, I was experimenting, and I'm actually going to lay this down now. It's probably going to just throw it down there, David. All right, so I've got a couple of, and actually you can see those right there leaning against the wall doing that. Well, I guess they're doing some good. I need to hang them right behind me about where the lamp is. So I've got an acoustical panel that is on this side of me. I've got an acoustical panel hanging from the ceiling of the basement right here. And then I've got one in the front. I really need to bring that one up. I've got some more hooks right up here that I need to bring it closer. So what I'm trying to explain is this. A $10,000 microphone is going to sound terrible in an untreated room. But a $100 microphone in a treated room is going to sound better than the $10,000 microphone. Why? because microphones, their only job is to pick up more. So the more expensive it is, the more it picks up. And if you don't have a treated room, like for example, I was down here a minute ago getting ready for the live stream, and in my headphones, I heard this roaring. I'm like, what in the world is that noise? What is this roaring? What is this noise? And I took my headphone off like this, and I'm trying to listen. Where is that noise coming from? It's about to drive me nuts. And then I realized where it was coming from. It was the air handler right over here. So it was running for the HVAC system, the air handler right over here, and I could hear it through my headphones. So this microphone, which this is not, a tremendously expensive microphone, which I guess that's subjective whether what you think would be expensive, but $200, $250, something like that. It was picking it up because it's a condenser microphone. I could hear the washing machine when it started to drain, through the pipes with my headphones on. So the microphone is just going to pick up more of what's already there. So if you want to improve your audio, no matter what microphone you have, back to that, I can help you out. Just get it closer to the source. Let's do an experiment. Let's take and go to our second screen again. And let's go to our plugins, it waits for me to click on them. It's actually like invisible for you until I click on them. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through here and turn everything off, which it is going to get a little quieter. Okay. So, all right, de-esser, let's turn it off. You won't tell much of a difference from that. Maybe a little bit, do them. All right, now you're going to see a big difference when I turn off the compressor. Okay. All right, let's turn the compressor off. It's going to get, lower. All right, let's just turn that off. And now you got to hang with me here and give me just a second. I'm going to turn all this processing off and simply just get close to the microphone. And you can hear the microphone by itself without the processing, and you let me know what it sounds like. Okay, let me turn this off. Okay, this is what it sounds like through this is just a pure microphone right here, is what you're hearing. Okay, no processing. All right, I can hear some things in my headphones, which I have to kind of back off the microphone a little bit because the gain is a little hot. Okay. All right, so, but you can see this is what the microphone sounds like with no processing whatsoever. And I can improve that. Let's do an experiment. If I'm way out here, you can't hear me much. It's about 10 inches away and doesn't sound as good. All right, let's say we don't have all this fantastical equipment. Okay, great. Just take the microphone and bring it up to your mouth, the source, and how much better does that sound? That's just the microphone itself. Let me bend it down a little bit so it's not right in my face. But, let me know in the comments, how does that sound with absolute? Now, I got to be careful. It could be a little hot, a little loud. I might clip, which is distortion, because I don't have the compression on. But let me know in the comments, what does it sound like when I just get it closer to the source? Does it sound good? Does it sound like it's usable? Like we could, we just got a microphone we already had, got it closer to our mouth, and it sounds better. So let me know what you think. And in the meantime, I'll turn it on one thing at a time. Okay, let's go to we're going to go to this is the channel strip, which I'm going to start using the preamp on this. Let me turn that on. Okay, now we switched over to the other preamp. Okay, and it sounds a little more tame to my ears. Of course, you'd really have to have some studio headphones to really hear the difference. What's really going to set it off is the compressor. All right, so let me turn the compressor back on. Turn the compressor back on. Okay, here's me with a compressor. Let me know how that sounds. That just sent it, in orbit. I mean, now I sound like a radio broadcaster. Now I sound like a podcast. Now I sound like a radio announcer through the compression, right? Let me know about the compressor. The de-esser, like I said, tames those S's, those consonants. And so I have a lot of semblance in my voice. You'll have to find out, everybody's voice is different. It's not to say that anybody who has a voice, can be heard. But what I'm saying is we want to take out distractions. Like, for example, let's take out the semblance. All right. So that it attenuates, brings that down. Let me get rid of all this. Now here's one real quickly. And I'm going to go to the comments okay. You've heard this in church. Okay, I guarantee it. And that is, I'm going to take this cover off. And this is a windscreen that came with the microphone. And I guarantee you, all of you dealt with this. Peter Piper. You hear that? You've heard that in church. Those are called plosives. And a way to reduce those is once, don't speak directly into the microphone. Speak across it like I'm doing right now. So you see, I don't have it like right in my face like this because you're getting all them plosives. You hear the plosives. All right, that's when the air hits the diaphragm of the microphone. So I'm going to use the microphone technique and speak off to the side. And then I'm going to place it over here. I like it because it's magnetic, and I still don't trust them. I mean, they do help, but they won't take it all away and get a windscreen or one of those foam covers. But still, none of them are going to be perfect. You're going to have to, and those come with the letter P, plosive. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, that thing. So if I speak across from it and let the air go out this way, it won't hit the diaphragm of the microphone, and you don't get them annoying plosives. Every time somebody says P, and it's like, pow, the whole PA pops, sometimes. All right, let's see here. Look at the comments. All right, got Brother Jamie Doss on. Hey, brother. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Okay, now you're on there. Okay. Jamie Doss, good to have you, brother. Appreciate you being on here. And it says, hey, brother, I have a question. We have audio for the church, but the audio for the live streaming on Facebook is not working. I was wondering if you could help us. I'd be glad to. We could do it a couple ways. You can go to my website, as I mentioned earlier, is tolermedia.com. And on there, and that's all I ask you to do to help me in scheduling, is go to the website, as I'll show you here, and then tolermedia.com. Let me get rid of these plugins again, because they want to pop up every time. All right, let me click on this and then that. There we go. All right, so go to my website, tolermedia.com/call, and we can do a free video or phone consultation, and I'll help you as much as I can. We could do a FaceTime too if you like. It would help if I could kind of see what's going on, video call, or we could do it via Zoom, and because that'll, save you money by anything helping folks initially. I like to help them for free. So just give me a call. Just schedule in here. It's real easy. Just, pick a time, which some of these times I'm going to have to adjust for the month of June. But anyway, just pick one and we'll work it out, and be glad to get with you about it. Okay? So it is a difficult one. It is live stream audio can be a hard one. Really frustrating because it's there's just so many things that can go wrong. There's so many things it could be, and unless you understand, okay, this goes to this, goes to this, goes to this, then it can be complicated. Everybody's using kind of different. You're welcome. Yeah, I'll be love to help you, and get with me this week. I'm pretty free this week. I got some things coming up. All right, and then coming up, over the summer, some jobs and things. But right now I'm pretty free this week. Okay. Raymond Surratt says, welcome Raymond. What would you suggest for live streaming in an environment with no Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection? All right, what would you suggest for live streaming in an environment with no Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection? Well, it sounds like you don't have any option. What I would do in that situation, if I didn't have an Ethernet connection, if I didn't have Wi-Fi, I wouldn't look, maybe, unless you're looking, live is good, but it's not the only solution. I know some churches that don't have service in their area. They're not able to get it. It's not available. It's not offered, and the solutions for that are not great. They just in the boondocks or whatever, and they don't have a good internet connection. I know one church contacted me and said, we bought all this equipment, PTZ camera, we've got all this equipment. However, we realize we don't have the internet don't reach up here to the church. Well, my suggestion for that is, if you were, and Raymond, let me know if you're talking about an individual or you're talking about a church service in the comments. But the thing is, what I would do in that situation is I just would, for the time, forget about live streaming personally, but don't let that stop you, okay? Don't get discouraged by that. You have an advantage. You got to look at it in a different light. You have an advantage that other churches have but don't realize, and that's this. If you don't have an internet connection or Wi-Fi, which I don't live stream Wi-Fi. I'm just telling you. I mean, you might do it out here for your own personal thing. You're at a park or something and whatever. But if you're doing a live stream at a church or a ministry or your house, do not try to live stream from Wi-Fi. I mean, you can try it, but I'm going to tell you something. It is highly unreliable. You say, well, I've got a gig. I'm telling you right now, it's unreliable. You need a hardwired connection. And if you need help with that, I can help you with it. I've got plenty of Cat 6 cable and connectors and tools to get that line in there. And I tell folks all the time at churches, before I even show up, be sure that you are able to get, listen to me, folks, business class, high-speed internet. If you're at a church or business, well, you're kind of, in our area, residential. I've got a gig here at the house. That's not download speed, but, that's good for here. All right. Well, it's actually good for a lot of places, but for live streaming. But I have a hardwired connection run down here to my basement. So that is important. If you are a church, you need to ensure that you can get business class high-speed internet. All right, you're going to have business class, okay, internet to be able to do this. And please, 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 don't pick a room back there they used in 1974 for an office that's got a typewriter, an old memory graph machine, and somebody opened the door in 20 years. Put it, more than likely, please help me out, and put a Cat 6 cable in your sound room or tech booth. Probably we need to call it now because it's more than just sound. Put it in there. I don't know how many times somebody put it in a back room 300 miles away from the equipment, and I got to run a Cat 6 cable through brick, mortar, caves. I mean, good grief. Put that thing near the equipment. It just makes logical sense. Okay? So do that for me. Be sure that you can get that before you proceed. That's step number one. Be sure you can do that. And get a hardwired connection. Like I said, I'll be glad to help you with that. I've put 1,000 of them on. I could show you how to do it. I would show you how to do it through a conference call if you like. Okay. And you have YouTube, okay? The University of YouTube to go to. All right, Raymond says individual. Yeah, let's see, with no Wi-Fi, you really don't have any choice. I wouldn't get caught up in live streaming. Of course, Raymond, you could go to the church, our church, and if you need to live stream, hardwire connection, whatever, you're welcome to do that. Other than that, what I would do, I would pre-record things. And I'm doing a live stream now, but I'm going to do more content. It's more popular to do content that is not live stream. So what I was going back to the church is the advantage you have. I want to come back to that. The advantage that you have by not having service in your area, as far as internet is concerned, is what I would do is take the camera, take the equipment, record the service, the audio, just like you are live streaming, and take it and get somebody who has some editing software at the house, and you have, or somebody can edit it for you. We could talk about me doing some editing for you, chop off the front and the end, take out anything you don't want on there, dress it up, fix the audio, and just produce one and, let's say send it out there, or just record it and, don't do any of that stuff. And I'm going to give you a secret. Are you ready? Put your live stream out there at another time. Okay. That's where you've got the advantage. If you look at it in a positive light, it'll 10:30, 11 o'clock in our area. Between 10:30 and 12, everybody in the whole county and city go live all at the same time. Well, guess what? People can't watch them all at the same time. But what if you recorded yours and released it about 2 or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, your morning service? Do you have an advantage there? Yes, you do. Because when yours comes up, yours, for the most part, is the only one playing. You don't have the competition, and that's what I'd do. Okay? You'd have the advantage in that sense, and that's the way I would look at it. Anybody else got any questions real quick before I head out of here? I'll be glad to stick around as long as you're willing to. Keep those questions rolling in. Be glad to help you any way I can while we're here and while we're live streaming before I change gears. Okay? So these are the several things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to the live stream and thinking differently and so forth. And don't, get some advice. I'm here as a resource for you to help you. I love nothing more than to be able to help folks with this, because the way I look at it is the more folks I help that preach the gospel and get the word of God out, I feel like, more churches and individuals that I help get the word of God out, and through live streaming or podcasting or audio or whatever, I believe by doing that, God will add that to my account, that I helped unclog the drain and the log jam and the discouragement to help people get on video, get on audio, and preach the word. And that's the way I look at it, is that it is a ministry, and we're not in competition. I say put it out there, put the good Bible-believing churches out there and preach the word. And let the chips fall where they may. There'll be criticizers. Sometimes people ask, do I get criticized online? I really haven't, unless you get scammed or, you get hacked or something. Like earlier, I think we had one about to hack us. But you have someone paying attention and watching the comments on your live stream, and they need to be paying attention at church, and they need to monitor that, and they need to delete it. That's the only problem I've ever had. I hadn't had anybody come up to me and just ranting and raving, and I've been doing this live stream since, at church since 2019. Before COVID we started it. I think the beginning of 2019 is when we started live streaming. And like I said, I haven't, up to this point had any issues. Because the thing is, who even knows who I am right now, right? I mean, if we were more popular or something like that, it might have an issue. Okay. So, again, it can be real confusing, but don't get discouraged. There's not a live stream that goes by, even at our church with what we know, that something every time goes wrong. Like this morning, they told me the piano couldn't be heard on the live stream keyboard. So evidently the auxiliary got turned down for the live stream. But we're getting ready to move and add some speaker wire to our current speakers and put our mixer in the back near the computer and all, so that can be adjusted without distraction. So I have all what I need to, be able to add some 12 gauge speaker wire and get the mixer back to the back part. And that will allow them to be able to mix, without having to walk all the way to the front and everybody looking at you and trying to adjust this, that, and the other and walk all the way back to see if it made a difference. You don't want that. So let somebody, if you ever decide to upgrade, get some advice first. Get somebody in there that is going to help you, not try to sell you a bunch of stuff you don't need, and assess the situation. And you'll be glad you did, because in the long run, it'll save you a lot. Okay. Some folks I go in, they're happy with, and there's nothing wrong with that. Live streaming from your phone. I've live streamed from a GoPro. I don't suggest that. They get too hot too quick, but I mean, they got a good picture to them, but they get hot and they cut off. They're unreliable. I've live streamed from a phone. I've live streamed from a camcorder. I've live streamed from a DSLR camera with a 16 millimeter lens on it, so I have this wide shot that I have tonight, let me know if you like this wide shot. Lets you see more of my space. So that's a 16 millimeter wide angle lens. All right. So I've got that one. I've live streamed from a PTZ optics, not PTZ camera. It does have to be PTZ optics, which I like those, but a PTZ pan, tilt, zoom. Okay. Be sure you get an optical zoom. Okay. Optical zoom. Think optics. All right. You want a lens on there. You don't want a digital zoom. When you zoom in, it's all grainy. Okay. And then too, I think, your audio is real important, but actually the aesthetics of it, and like this little space I've created, we'll have to show you behind the scenes sometime, but I've got a light here. I've got a light there. I've got, the camera. I've got, the computer screens. I've got the microphone. And then I turned on this lamp as an accent light, or they call it practical. And then I've used the color behind me to just kind of make the picture more inviting, more aesthetically pleasing. So that's another thing. There is a reason that when you think about a live stream, when they're, I don't want to really use Hollywood, but when they're producing films or documentaries or whatever, there is a reason they say lights, camera, action. But, and I'll leave you with this. We all know that one. Lights, already got lights. Got to have them. Want to improve any camera? Get some light on it. This camera I have would be worth nothing if I didn't have lights on me. So lights, camera, then action. But before, and go look this up, before any of that happens, they say sound speeds. And when they say sound speeds, they start the audio and start recording the audio a couple, we'll say seconds or before, and get the audio rolling first, then lights, camera, action. So you can see that that's the reason I concentrate on the audio. If you have a live stream and you have this wonderful shot that you have right now, And let's say I was to go in here and, mute this, and just beware, I'm going to mute this on purpose. Okay. And you're not going to be able to hear me, but I'm going to make a point here. All right. I got this beautiful shot. You can't hear me. You can't hear a word I'm saying. So right there, I muted it. And what good is, you want a nice, beautiful, picture that is aesthetically pleasing, but without the audio right there, when I muted it, what do we have? Absolutely nothing. So audio is more important than video. If I got a bad picture, but if I got really good sound, people will listen. If I got a good camera, it's picking up good and all that stuff, and then, you can't hear me, what good is the live stream? I know a church this morning which I'm getting ready to help them. They're raising some money for a new computer, and they do need one. I'm not being funny. I'm serious. They really need one, because to be able to live stream, you got to have a beefy computer to be able to do that, which Mac seems to be I am live streaming now through a Mac Mini that has the M1 chip. No issues whatsoever. But I also have a PC, and on the PC side, an i5 processor is the bare minimum. In fact, I would at least get an i9 processor plus. I don't even know what's above that. Mac seems to be more on the affordable side now if you look at the Mac Minis, and that's what I would suggest for cost. Looking at $800,000-$900,000. But if you think that's a lot, go look at PC. You say, I'm a PC person. I don't want to learn how to work a Mac. Well, I didn't either. I've always been a PC guy, but if you're going to do real in-depth audio video stuff, in my opinion, you're going to need a Mac. Okay, even though I started out on a PC to be able to handle it. So it's a lot that goes into it. It is costly. It is, can be very frustrating and aggravating, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And it seems like every time you go live, and I don't want churches to get discouraged and quit, is what I'm saying. You're always going to have something that don't go right. But you have me as a resource. All you got to do, one more time, and then we'll get out of here. All right. Go to the website. Go to tollermedia.com. Go to the main website. If you need a website, I'll help you with that too while I'm taking care of that. Also, we got some free church bulletin template if you need that for your church bulletin. That's one of the two most popular videos on my YouTube page is church bulletin templates, working through that. So if you're interested in that, I'm getting ready to have some available for purchase, which are a whole package of church templates for Microsoft Publisher, and then I'll have to come back and do some for Pages and Mac. We do websites. I've got a page for recommendations of equipment that you can look through. But ask me any questions about, the equipment. Doesn't mean just because this is what I have, you need, do some research, but this is what I'm using. And then I got some helps as far as suggestions for live streaming equipment and what's best and good, and then what's free. Okay, which is, I suggest OBS, which right now I'm live streaming through Ecamm, which is only for the Mac. Screen recording software suggestions, web hosting. Okay. So, and of course you can contact me because that's ever really changing. But, like I said, you can go to the Discovery Call tab and then schedule a free consultation, either phone call or video call. All right. And, I do need to adjust my schedule for the summer, but I'm gonna be out of pocket here 12 to, I'm gonna have to move that down, but I'll fix that. If you pick one that is a time I'm not available, we'll reschedule, okay? All right, y'all take care. It's been good talking to you. If you have any further questions, just let me know, and then reach out to me through the website. And maybe if you enjoyed this, let me know. We'll go through it again. If you have any questions or something you'd like me to make a video about, or some training, or if you'd like me to come down and look at your current setup, or give you suggestions, or do a FaceTime, I would just be glad and be more than happy to help you out, okay? All right, we appreciate you, and we'll let you go. You have a good rest of the night. Be listening out. There's going to be a live stream coming up this week for church bulletins, so if you would share it with your church secretary, the person that does the bulletins, it may be a great help to them in creating the bulletins as people's getting back in church since COVID. And like I said, those are the two most popular videos on my website, on YouTube to date. Okay. All right. Y'all take care, and let me know if you have any further questions. In the meantime, don't get discouraged. Keep going with the live stream audio. And if you need any help, you know where to find me, tollermedia.com. And then right here on YouTube, Toller Media, and on Facebook, Toller Media. It's everywhere. All right. Y'all take care, and we'll see you in the next video.